Hi again. Let's continue our discussion of selecting, elements and manipulating the DOM with JavaScript. So in the last video, we talked about get element by ID, and we use that to find elements here in the DOM via their ID name, right? So what are we going to do? I've added a new element here down at the bottom that says IDB, and then it has a button in it called click. So the first example didn't have this, right? We just had one element with the ID name of B, and now I've added a second element, right, with the same ID name. So what happens when we use get element by ID? Which one will it find? Will it find both, or will it find just the first one, right? So I'll refresh it here, and you can see when I look at the console, it finds the B with the hello inside it. That's this first one right here, and it doesn't find the second one. Okay, so when you use get element by ID, JavaScript searches the DOM from the top and then works its way inward. So it searches here, it looks at the children, and then it grabs the first child that matches the ID name, and then from there it stops. Okay, so it's always going to return the first instance of this ID name, and then all the other instances are inaccessible, or you won't be able to get them with their ID name. Okay? Okay, let's give it another try. What if we did this? What if we say const div c equals document dot query selector, right? And we're going to try the same thing here, but we're going to use query selector this time. So I'm going to choose query selector, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say let's find the ID with named C. So this ID description here is the same as you might use in your style sheet. So for an ID, I have to begin with the hash mark, and that says it's an ID. If it was a class name, we would begin with the dot. So I'll say, ID C, and then we can console log this element here, div C. Okay, so we'll say document query selector. Let's search for an element with the ID name C, and then put it in this variable, and then we'll log that. So we'll quickly refresh the browser here, and you can see this gives me div C. Okay, there we go. So that's pretty good, right? And there's our C right there. What happens if we did the same thing here with B? Right? Let's copy that, and we'll call this B2, I don't know, right? Okay, and then we'll change this to B, and then we'll refresh it, and you can see it finds one B. So query selector finds a single item. It looks for the first match, so for the first thing that's going to match this, right? And then when we open it up, it shows me just the first one. So again, query selector is going to work its way down here and find only the first item. Okay, let's try another one. What if I wanted to get to the button? So now you'll notice I have button tag here, right? And it's inside of B, which is inside of A. Okay. And in CSS, when we define a selector for a tag name, you can just use the name of the tag. So we don't put any special character in front of this. So if I'm looking for the button tag, I can just type the name button here. And then I change this name to button, so I'll change this one also. And let's give it a try, right? So if I refresh here, you can see that I've found the button. Okay? If there was more than one button, for example, if I put a button outside here, other button, we'll call this like the cancel button, right? If I put this one here and then I refresh, you can see it, let me save that again, right? And then refresh it here, you can see it says it finds the click button first, okay? And then it doesn't see the second one, okay? So that's working pretty good. Let's try another one, right? Let's say I put the button right here inside of C, right? So it was a little weird that it found this one before it found the one here that was a child of A. But what if I nest that one here? Is it still going to find the B, or is it going to find this one first? Let's give it a try. Oh, so it finds the first one. So essentially, like, query selector kind of works its way down the page, and it ignores the hierarchy and just finds the first instance of something that matches the selector, okay? So in our case, button, right? But what if we want to get more detailed? Okay, so if we want to make sure that we get the click button that's inside of B, then we'll have to use a more detailed selector here. And again, just like CSS, you can say ID name B, and then using the space would mean that that button would be a descendant of B, so somewhere inside the B tag. If we knew that it was a child, we could put the arrow selector here, and this is the child selector, so we can say like it's an immediate child of B. Okay, so this time, like before, we got the cancel button, which was under C, but now we're saying like, hey, why don't you look inside of B and find a button, right? And this time it gets the click button, right? Because that's definitely a child of B, right? So anyway, so there's a quick introduction to querySelector, right? And this one's pretty good. So remember, querySelector is useful. You could use this for almost every single thing. GetElement by ID is kind of great just for the ID names, but querySelector is a lot more flexible. And so in other situations, this would be the best choice. Again, both of these only return a single element, and it's the first element that the browser finds in the DOM. Okay, the first one that matches the criteria here. Okay, so anyway, thanks for watching.